Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 466. Got a great guest I've been looking forward to interviewing, and that's Liz Melville. She's a Facebook expert, and we'll be delving in the whole world of Facebook, how to use it to pre-launch your product or service. If you've got a client that's asking advice, maybe to help you give some basic insights for that client so you don't look like all that stupid. Liz, could you quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Sure. So I am Liz Melville. I'm a Scottish lass working in Scotland, and I work with online course creators just to help them ditch all the drama that surrounds Facebook ads and simplify it and teach them my signature strategies so that they can have their best launches ever.
Oh, that's great. And I've got my great co-host, Adrian, who'd like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian. I'm the CEO and founder of Groundhog, and we produce and sell marketing automation plugins for WordPress.
Oh, that's great. And before going into the main part of the show, I'd like to talk about a couple of our sponsors. Our main sponsor is Kinsta. They've been with us for the past 2 years. They decided to sponsor the show for the whole of 2020. What is Kinsta? Kinsta is the premier WordPress hosting company in my mind. They've been hosting the WP-Tonic website for over 2 years. I've been totally happy with their hosting. What they offer to you and your clients is basically they use the power of Google Cloud. Then they've got their own interface. You get all the technology that you need, staging site, latest version of PHP. But the biggest thing is you get no, that's not the right word. You get the best support offered by any hosting company specializing in WordPress at the present moment. You don't have to be accelerated up the technical support chain. If you've got a question, it gets answers and it gets dealt with. It is fantastic. So if that sounds great, go over to Kinsta for yourself or for your clients, buy one of their packages, but really also tell them that you heard about Kinsta on the WP-Tonic show. Our secondary sponsor is Launchflow. So basically, if you've got a WooCommerce website for yourself or you're handling one for a client and you want to put it on steroids, and you want to use a modern page builder like Elementor, Launchflows is the product for you and your clients. Go over there, have a look at this amazing product, buy it, and also tell them that you heard about their product on the WP-Tonic show. So, Liz, the world of Facebook. So I thought we'd start off with is basically, how did you get into the world of Facebook and become such a diva of the Facebook pixel?
I've never been called a diva before, so that's a new one. Thanks, Jonathan. So I kind of fell into Facebook marketing head first. So back in 2009, I was in a proper job. Somebody actually employed me to do a job, and I was taking redundancy and I still wanted to keep working. So while I was in my corporate job, I actually had a little kind of sideline, a little hobby business, and I was using Facebook just to tell people what I was up to, which was actually creating personalized chocolate bars for wedding favors. It was my idea of heaven. My house was full of Belgian chocolate. It was incredible. But anyway, I was telling friends, and of course, it was at a time when a lot of my friends were getting married and they were telling their friends, and I was getting business out of this. And I thought, this is quite amazing. I'm just chatting on social media and I'm getting money out of it. So when it came time for me to leave corporate, I still wanted a job. And at that point, an opportunity presented itself to learn more about social media marketing and Facebook in particular. So that's what got me started. And I would have advised you on Twitter and LinkedIn and all the social media platforms, but very quickly realized that it's important to niche down. And Facebook was definitely my first love. That's what I stuck with and really just decided to specialize in Facebook itself. And that's in Facebook advertising specifically, and now that's very much what I specialize in.
Over to you, Adrian.
Awesome. So I think one of the things that course creators often have trouble with is designing a way to engage people who have no idea who they are, what they do, or they just upload their course to a brand new website domain with zero authority, and they've spent a lot of time creating this course, but they have a hard time getting enrollments, getting people interested. And we were talking a little bit before the call. There's kind of like two levels of audience. There's completely like cold traffic, and then there's like lukewarm to warm traffic. People who may have heard of you, who may have an idea what you're doing about. And then there's the cold traffic, which is generally, if you're a brand new course creator, you have to start marketing to. Now, I'm so curious about what strategies you employ and what a course creator would be able to do in order to reach out to cold traffic in an effective way and actually get some sort of return on their investment in Facebook ads.
Yeah, it's a great question, Adrian, and it's something that I very much focus on with everyone I work with, because I come from the point of view that Facebook advertising is social advertising, and I want to highlight that word, social. So we're not talking about talking to complete strangers. We're talking about how can you actually interact and create connection using your Facebook ads that it becomes like a conversation. And it's almost thinking about, well, if I was going to walk up to a stranger in the street, what would I say to them? Would I walk up and say, do you want to buy my course? You haven't a clue who I am. You've never met me before. I could be anybody. I could be the dodgiest character on the planet. Until you get to know me, you're probably not going to buy from me. So I think this is where Facebook ads should be used to warm up that audience, exactly, as you described, so that you turn them from being cold and having no clue who you are to building that connection and using ads to do that before you present the offer to them. So you've put all that effort into building your course. You want it to sell, and you're more likely to sell it to someone who knows, likes, and trusts you than a complete stranger. So that, for me, is a key strategy, is how do you move people from first contact with you to become a warmer audience and then put your course launch offer to them.
I think that's the step that most people miss, is they think that, we learn growing up, build it and they will come. And that's kind of just like not the reality of the situation at all, right?
No.
You have to sort of build a level of trust. But how do you actually go about doing that? And because you can't expect to do that during your course. You have to do that before the enrollment. So what kind of strategies exist that you employ to do that?
You do. And I think, this is where is a step that a lot of people miss out, because they go from, I've got this thing to sell, I just want to chuck out an ad in front of anyone who look at it to try and sell it, and forget about actually there are human beings behind that. And they want to be loved, and they want to be nurtured, and they want to be inspired, and they want to be heard. And I think you can use your Facebook ads to do that, even with complete strangers. So it's thinking about what content, what have I got that I can promote to get it in front of people who have never heard of me in a way that they're going to take notice. And that can be very short content. It can be, very short video talking about some kind of topic that's going to inspire people, that's going to disrupt their thinking, that's going to stand out and make them go, oh, take notice, I want to know more. And then follow that up with more, putting more in front of them, that they start to get to know you much better. Now, that doesn't have to be complicated. It really can be quite simple. And if you're doing something like you are, running a regular podcast, it's just about putting that out there and taking it to strangers, but making sure that the topics that you put in front of them align to what it is you're eventually selling.
I think we had someone on the call last year who essentially said pretty much the same thing. It's all about having that content that is easily consumable, that doesn't require any sort of opt-in or exchange of information or exchange of monetary investment, but just having something available for someone to look at and then promoting that, maybe like a blog post, podcast, or video. And I think, once upon a time, I launched a Facebook ads campaign, totally missing that step, and wasted a lot of money doing it. So it's a very important step. Jonathan.
So, Liz, have you got any... are there any clients that you've worked with in the past year, 18 months, that come to your mind that have done this the way that you would do it if you were advising yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And the person who totally comes to mind is one of my biggest clients, James Wedmore. So anyone in the online space who knows of James, he has absolutely mastered the art of this. But he takes it one step further. And I think it's all very well, it's easy to say, just put content out there. It's not about that. It's about remembering there's a human being, as I said earlier, on the other side of that content, and actually sitting down and thinking, what do they need to hear from me that's going to help them with something that's going on in their lives? And I think, one famous marketer once said that people don't want to buy a 12-inch drill bit. They want to actually they want a hole. So it's the hole they want to drill in their wall. That's their real need. You're trying to sell them the drill bit. It's making sure that you talk about how they're going to create that hole. And I think that's it. It's what is going on with them. What do they really need? It might not be what you think you want to sell. It's what they really need that's going on in their lives. And how can you talk to that? What content can you put out there that speaks to that really does inspire them, disrupt them, excite them, entertain them, or really get them thinking about something? So I think it's about taking it that extra layer in thinking about what content you put out there, and it's not necessarily how-to content. So James is an absolute master, as I said, about doing this. He knows his audience in depth. He knows what makes them tick. And what he will always do when he's doing a course launch is he starts months in advance to start to reach new people who maybe don't know about him, but to talk to them in their language about the things that matter to them, that will draw them towards him and to the course that he's eventually going to put in front of them.
Right, I think that's great. So, do you think because you work with a lot of course creators, do you think the fundamental problem is a lot of them approach you after they've built the course, but really they should have done a lot of pre-planning and trying to find out about their target audience before they even made their first video?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Jonathan. It's not so much that they approach me too late. I think it's they approach their customers too late.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
absolutely is that I think people need this course. It's something I know a lot about. So I will just take everything that's in my head and put it into this course. And then I'll go out and find somebody who might want to buy it. And I think that's completely the wrong way around. I think you should be going and looking for that market who's eager, that has a problem that they need solving, and then saying, right, well, how can I build the product to fit that need and to solve that issue? And that will give you a much better chance of success. So yeah, I think it's just that that's another step that's often missed, is that market research and really taking the time to ask your audience questions about what's going on in their lives and how you can really help.
Over to you, Adrian.
So let's delve into that just a little bit more. So what strategies, because you've obviously helped course creators with this, I think. What strategies do you have in order for course creators, if they're thinking about building a course and they're watching this before they built anything, how do they go about and perform that market research? Is there an easy strategy that you give to people in order to perform that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, ads will promote anything. So if you come to me and say, I want to promote my market research, then, we'll do an ad campaign for that. But I think it's about saying, well, how am I going to do that market research? And the first place is to start with anyone who's already in your community, anyone who you're already in touch with, who is your ideal client avatar. So asking them the questions, what are the biggest challenges they're facing? What would solve that for them? If they could, get any training from you, what would that be that would help? And just asking those questions that they give you that feedback. But what a lot of people will then say is, well, I don't have a list and I don't have an existing social following. So where do I start? So it's then about, well, do other people have forums or groups that you're in that have people that you want to reach? Can you ask the questions in there? And if you're still drawing blanks, is there a way of putting out content using an ad to take it to more people where you can ask the questions that way? So you can use your ads to put out something, a poll or whatever it is, to ask those questions and get the response and serve that ad to exactly the people you want to reach.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think example, having a really quality lead magnet, but having the proviso when they go to the landing page and you push the free lead magnet, is that final step. They just got to answer a few questions, and they probably will, won't they, Liz?
They do. I mean, I have actually myself, when I'm running webinars, quite often on the thank you page, I'll just have, well, thanks for signing up. Would you mind just answering 2 questions? And it literally is 2 questions. And that's usually, what business are you in? And what's your biggest challenge in running Facebook ads? And that means that I've had hundreds of feedback just from one webinar that tells me exactly what my audience is facing and challenging. And I can then adapt my training to exactly what they said they needed. That's gold for me. But it's so simple to do, but it's something very few do.
Right. So when it comes to a cold audience that you have identified through joining other Facebook groups, you have done some research and you think you are answering questions, but you haven't got a large social media presence.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the campaigns that come to your mind that have been aimed at a pretty cold audience that have got some success?
I think it's just, there's kind of two arms to that. I think there's creating something that is the ad itself. What is that? What does that look like? What are you going to ask? And how are you going to present that question to people? Is it an image? What is it? Is that a video where you're going to speak to them? What's going to be most compelling to them to want to react to it? And
can I be a bit more specific, actually, for you? Do you think offering a really good lead magnet or maybe a very small free course are pretty good ideas when you're aimed at a semi-cold audience?
Do you mean for actually doing market research about who that audience is and what they need, Jonathan, or that you're past that, you know who they are and you want to offer them?
I would say the second, really.
Okay, right. I think in that case, again, it depends on your strategy. So lead magnets are great when you know exactly who you want to target, because the clue is in the name. They're a magnet to get leads that's going to lead through to you presenting an offer to them. So you want to get the right people in. And a good lead magnet is only going to work when you do understand your ideal client and you do know the challenges that they face, and you put that in the lead magnet. You give them one step that's going to take them further to solving their problems, and the rest of the solution is in your course. So the lead magnet can be very powerful in, filtering out, getting the right people, getting them to raise their hands as interested in what you've got, and then, drawing them through to your offer. So I think lead magnets are great. But again, a lot of people will use, create PDFs and all these things and put them out, and then they still don't convert to a sale, because you've then got to move them from having said, yeah, I'm interested in your free stuff. You've still got to get them interested in your paid stuff. And so quite often, you might not want to do a lead magnet. You might want to offer a free experience that is doing 2 things. It is warming people up, letting them get to know you, and gathering leads at the same time. So things like webinars, free experiences, challenges, and video series, all these kind of things that typically launches will use are great ways of collecting leads, but also getting that extra vital engagement as well.
If I can jump in, and I want to build on top of that. So, Chris from Lifter LMS, who often comes on the panel show, big LMS provider for the WordPress community, and he taught me a strategy called the free course lead magnet. And that is exactly an example of that strategy you just mentioned, something that does both actions. It both warms them up, builds trust, and then ends up with some sort of conversion strategy to upgrade them to paid. So for the one that we implemented was we're a software company. So our free course lead magnet is basically just training on how to use the free portion of the software, and then builds up to implementing some of our premium stuff, which then pushes them to a paid subscription. So if anybody is curious about what an example of that looks like, a free course lead magnet, short, under an hour, explaining again how to solve step 1 of their initial problem, and then building up on, here is the paid thing that's going to help you solve steps 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, and that's a brilliant way to do it. But I think what a lot of people do is almost, it's easier to almost hide behind, if I'll just create a PDF and I'll just promote that, and I don't actually have to show up as me and talk to people, God forbid. It's kind of, I'll just put that out and that'll get the leads in for me. Now that will convert to sale, but you're going to have a damn good email sequence nurturing people after that allows them to get to know you through email. And they even to get them to click on open up that email is no mean feat. So I think, yes, there's a place for lead magnets, but I think you need to use them very strategically, and quite often actually giving them a free experience of you is a much more powerful way to get your leads in.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Well, we're going to wrap up the first half of the show, folks. When we come back, I'll be talking with Liz about how you identify your target audience using in Facebook, and also retargeting. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We're delving in the world with the diva of Facebook, Liz Melville. So, Liz, another factor is how you utilize all the tools in Facebook to identify the best audience for your product or course. Now, Facebook offers a lot of insights into different audiences. Yeah, based on your experience, is this another area? I think we've covered some traps that people fall into in the first half, and we've given some clear advice about how to avoid that or start thinking in the right way. But then we're dealing with Facebook itself, especially if you're wanting to do this yourself, is identifying using the metrics that Facebook offers, and they offer a lot of different metrics to find the right audience. Is this the kind of third main elephant trap that people fall into? They don't understand how to use the Facebook metrics about identifying the correct audience.
Yeah, and I'm actually, the biggest trap I see people fall into is not so much that they don't know how to use Facebook metrics to identify the right audience, it's they don't know who their audience is, full stop. And I think where people go wrong with Facebook ads is that they dive in there and think that Facebook is this magic bullet to go and it'll somehow find the perfect people and draw them in. It won't. You need to tell Facebook where to go and look for these people. And if you don't know who your ideal client is, and you don't know what makes them tick, and you don't know what they're interested in, then you can't possibly tap into all the targeting options that Facebook gives you. So for me, the most powerful tool is not actually in Facebook. It's a blank sheet of paper, and it's sitting with that and absolutely brainstorming who is my client, and attacking that from two angles. What are their demographics? So how old they are, where they live, all that good stuff, but also their psychographics. What are they interested in? What books are they reading? What lifestyle have they got? Have they got kids? Where do they live? What do they aspire to do? What brands do they aspire to wear, to use? And who are they following on Facebook? What websites do they visit? All of that stuff. And you might think, what do I need to know all that for? That will make your targeting on Facebook so powerful, because armed with all these keywords and all this research that you've done on your blank piece of paper, you can go into Facebook and use the tools to type in the keywords and see what audiences come up as targetable. And that will make your audience targeting much more powerful. And then you can use the metrics as you're running ads to see whether they really are working or not, and interpret what the data is telling you.
So I totally understand where you're coming from, but it was a little, as you were saying these truthful words, it was getting more and more daunting in a way. So how do you assemble these descriptions of your ideal client? Are you making educated guesses, or or are there ways of finding data that back up this, that they do, your target audience are the people that go to specific websites, or they read specific magazines, or all the other metrics you were pointing out?
Yeah, I mean, you can. And it's interesting that you say, that all starts to sound really daunting. And it's amazing how people are daunted by just sitting with a blank piece of paper and actually having to think about who their ideal client is. it does. It amazes me because all we're asking really to do is to sit and think about them. And if you know them well enough, you should have a pretty good idea and be able to fill in some of those blanks. But, you know, we have a great tool available, Google. You can actually go into Google and type in things like the most popular books read by yoga instructors, you know, whatever your niche is, you can type that in and you'll get ideas. So, you know, replace that best book with something else.
Right.
And most popular websites visited by the niche that you're trying to go after. So you can actually use Google off of Facebook for a lot of research into your target market. It's amazing what will come up that you can put on that blank piece of paper, and then you can go in and use the tools on Facebook to further refine that in terms of what you can and can't actually target within Facebook itself.
Right. Let's go. I'll just give you a second, actually, Adrian. Let's do a little game here. I know a young man that's got a software, WordPress software product. And
is he not too far from here by any
he's
chance?
He's not too far from here. He's better looking than me.
Who is this man?
And he thinks his product, or he's identified that his target audience is digital agencies.
Mm-hmm.
People running drip campaigns for clients, right? So how would you advise him if he wanted to run a Facebook campaign that would be targeted at digital agencies and persuading them to utilize his fantastic product?
Sure. So if this hypothetical young man was to come to me, I'd be saying, well, you know, so you're looking for digital agencies. Where do they hang out on Facebook that we can target them? So it's thinking about their daily life. What tools are they having to use to actually do their work? So is there email software that they're perhaps having to use? Start to list those tools. They're probably going to be interested in online advertising, for example, if it's a digital agency. So is that something we want to target? People who are interested in online advertising. They might be interested in digital marketing. So what would be the most popular websites for people who are interested in digital marketing? Start to do some of that research on Google. And you will start to draw up a long list of interests that you could potentially target. So it really is thinking about, if you were to put yourself in the shoes of that customer, what are they doing on a daily basis? What problems do they have? And where are they looking for the solution? So yeah, what tools are they using? What websites are they seeking help from? What professional periodicals or magazines might they be reading? Really brainstorming all of that to kind of create a profile. And then what I do is I take that and I will go into Facebook Audience Insights, and you can start to plug in some of those ideas, and it will give you more suggestions, and it'll also tell you what you can and can't target. So you can, it's amazing how you'll suddenly fill that sheet of paper.
So how do you make your, when you're utilizing the Facebook Insight tool, how do you make your decisions about, because you've got a long list and you're starting, you know, at that stage, when do you make decisions, and how do you make that decisions about the ones that you really think are going to be appropriate?
I think there's a bit of trial and error, because you can draw up the list of...
Oh, is that when the magic, is that when the magic comes in?
It's not so much where the magic comes in, it's where having to run Facebook ads and see how they go comes in, because you can look at a thing comes up and it might say, okay, I'm going to target an audience of online advertisers. And I know there's that amount of people, you know, 2 million people in that audience. You still don't know who's going to want to react to what you've got to offer and what you've got to say. So there's still that element of testing it out and what they're going to react to, what your ads look like, to get the best result. So it's a kind of looking at, well, if I've got this long list of people I want to target, who do I want to start with? Who do I feel has got the low-hanging fruit in it, that I've got the biggest proportion of my ideal client in them, and then work your way through that. And if they don't work, you move on to the next one and you just keep doing it. So there's no exact science in that. It really does come down to, you've got to test them out and see where those great audiences are and where they lie.
I think we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show, but then I'm going to let Adrian talk in the bonus content, and also got a couple more questions myself. So, I understand you're going to be running a free course in the near future, which sounds, I'm probably going to join myself. So, Liz, first of all, how can people find out more about you? Secondly, how do they sign up for your free course?
Okay. Yeah, people can come and find out more about me. I would love for them to come and listen to my own podcast. It's Ads That Convert podcast. And that's where I give lots of tips and strategies to run ads more simply and get them converting. So come and hang out with me there. And if you would like to join the free training, I would love for you to do that. It's on February the 12th. And it is really showing you the three ads the three most important ads that online course creators need to fill their launches with more ease and without being overcomplicated or needing a list or anything like that to get you started.
Right.
So you'll find that's at lizmelville.com/training.
And we'll make sure that's in the show notes, folks, so you'll be able to click and join. Adrian, how can people find out more about you and your company and what you're up to?
So you can go to groundhog2gs.io to find out more about how our marketing automation plugin can help you, if you have a course, increase student engagement and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. So again, that's groundhog2gs.io. We also have our lead magnet mini course, which we kind of talked about today, which you can sign up for free and get a funnel launched to help you with the marketing for your free course.
And if you really want to help the show, folks, go to the WP-Tonic website and sign up for our monthly newsletter. We're going to be changing the format in 2020. Our panelists on our round table show every Friday are going to be contributing to the newsletter with their own articles and insights. And it's just going to be a fantastic feast of WordPress and dealing with online marketing and course promotion as well. We'll see you next week where we have another fantastic guest giving insight how to make you a better marketer or a better course creator. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. Over to you, Adrian.
Yeah, so around near the end, we started talking about niches and verticals. And I was wondering, since you've been doing this for about 10 years, if there's particular niches of courses that you see exceed in results above all else and what those niches are.
Wow, it's a great question. I mean, the honest answer is no, because I think what rises to the top, Adrian, is a great course in any niche where they are solving the client's problem. So I think that can transcend any niche at all. It can be anything at all, as long as you really take the time to understand what's going to help people. That's what they will gravitate towards. So I think, nowadays it's so easy to create an online course that almost we don't think about it enough. And I think the people who do and really care about their customers and deliver a solution for them, they are the people that really do the best.
And kind of a follow-up, do you find it easier in any way for like a business to customer kind of product / course, or do you find that business to business also works really, really, really well?
Again, I think it's just, if you're solving the problem for that business, that will work just as well as if you're solving the problem for a customer. So, I mean, I predominantly will work with B2B at the moment, but I do also work with B2C, and you see amazing results in all areas. It really does go back to what I just said. It's about, as long as you're providing something that absolutely hits the mark, solves a problem, that will cover any niche at all.
Is there any difference in strategy in between B2C and B2B, or is it like the same exact build, content, build trust, go to free thing, and then, upsell to paid thing? Is that like the proven formula for both?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think the overarching formula is the same. And that's what I'm going to be teaching in my free training, is that it is just about these three overlapping circles, if you like. That if you can have those three elements in your ad strategy and you can hit that sweet spot in the middle, then you will, do really well. But what a lot of people do is they miss out one of those three steps, and there's a part of the Venn diagram missing, and that's where things just don't work. So I think as long as you are looking at who are these humans I'm trying to talk to that I want to buy from me, and really understanding them and building awareness, building connection, and then move on to how you deepen that relationship, and then go on to serving them with an offer and converting them to a customer. That is the secret strategy, I think, well, it's not a secret, it is the overarching strategy to success. I think then the devil is in the detail for your individual niche and customer in how you deliver that strategy. And that's where, you know, it has to be tailored.
Well, you heard it here first. You cannot use your niche as an excuse to do badly at Facebook ads.
No.
So when it comes to campaigns, Liz, how many adverts A to B testing do you normally do? And have you found differences in text and visuals really can make a tremendous difference between a success or failure?
Yeah, great question, Jonathan. And it's something
I'm doing better, Liz, aren't I?
It's something I always find evasive when I'm answering it, because it does come down to the testing. I've seen, you know, really crappy videos in an ad that do terribly, and really amazing visuals and images that do really well. Most people will say to me, well, I've heard that videos will always do better. Well, not necessarily. It depends on your audience, what they're used to listening to, how they want to receive the information you're trying to put across, and how much thought and effort you put into it to make it a really great experience for them. So I think there's always going to be that element of testing and what works for your particular audience. And as far as, you know, how many ads do you test out, a lot depends on how big a campaign it is and how much budget you're putting behind it. Because what you don't want to do is have so many ads going out to a really tiny audience that they're almost going, whoa, wait a minute. And actually you end up with too much data that doesn't tell you anything. So I sometimes feel it's easier to keep it simple, just a few ad variables, test those out, and if they don't work, move on to the next thing.
Now let's to finish up. Let's talk about a small subject to finish off: retargeting. Can you give just a quick outline what retargeting is connected to Facebook, and maybe give some insights on how effective you have found running real campaigns for real people, how effective retargeting can be?
Sure. The best way I can explain retargeting is to give you an example of it. So if you've ever been on Amazon and you're looking at something to buy, but you didn't buy it, and then you happen to come off Amazon, you go into Facebook, and the next thing you see is an advert for that exact thing you were looking at pops up on Facebook, and you're like, how did it know I was looking at that? That's retargeting. So it's just using data that Facebook knows. If you've got Pixel on your site, it knows where you've landed. It knows what website pages you visited. So in Amazon's case, if I go to look at a bicycle and the Facebook pixel fires, it knows that I've been on that page. It sends information back to Facebook, and up pops an ad that I have set up that targets people who have visited that page. So I'm using existing data about people who are already come into contact with me to serve them an ad that will get them to take an action. And that's retargeting at its best. It is really encouraging people further down your sales funnel to encourage them to buy from you.
Right. So if they were looking at so maybe a good retargeting thing, let's keep to bicycles. So they've gone to your website, and let's say you're selling mountain bikes, and for some reason they haven't bought. So in the retargeting advert, would you offer some inducement for them to click the buy button to get them back to the website, or just that, or just does that just really depend on the campaign, I suppose?
It does, and I think it depends on the price point of what it is you're trying to sell, because some things, you know, a discount might work. I'm not a great believer in giving away discounts to get someone to buy. I think because you're giving away value. I think it's more about just reminding people, because we are all procrastinators. We all get distracted. And for me, sales retargeting ads are just a reminder that you might have just missed out on this. You might have forgotten to go and look at that, or you might have just got distracted and didn't, you know, add to cart and put your payment details in. So why not go back and take another look? But the best sales retargeting ads will create some kind of urgency. So whether it's there's only 5 of the red color of that bike left, you better go back and get it if you want it today. And you'll see that quite often. It's all, you know, only 1 left, only 2 left comes up in an ad. So it's trying to use that kind of thing to create a little bit of urgency that makes them go back.
Fear of missing out. FOMO.
Yep. Always the FOMO.
I think we'll wrap it up now, folks. Liz has been answering our interrogation quite effectively. But hopefully it hasn't come across too much of an interrogation, Liz.
No, it's lovely.
That was fantastic, and you have to come back on the show sometime during the year. We're going to wrap it up now, folks. We'll be back with another podcast and a bonus content next week. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. Shit. Oh, okay.
That's us.